Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Whether it's marriage, fitness, career, or your deen, the principle is the same. And that's just tying your camel, doing your part, and leaving the rest to Allah, the results. So today I want to go deeper on Tawakul, what it really means, how it looks in daily life, and why the seeds you plant now shape who you'll become later. Okay? Now, this is something that I've struggled with for a while and I'm actively working on. This is something that I'm working on, especially in terms of the business world. And that's just planting your seeds so that you'll be able to get to the next step, right? And what I mean by that is sometimes we put action now. I'm going to give an example of fitness because fitness is something that's huge for me. What happens when you first work out, right? You may see some quick wins, right? You may see some quick wins, but after a while, it starts to feel mundane. It starts to feel stale. You start to not really see the results that you want to see. And then you ask yourself, like, oh, well, I'm not seeing results. So I must be doing something wrong, right? But what may be happening, because the body is a very complex thing for Allah has obviously created, right? So we can't fully understand the body, right? There's people are scientists are always trying to understand it, understand with the brain, for example, excuse me, right? So, but this is something we could understand. The seeds equals your habits, right? And this is like just planting the seeds. What you do daily will compound, whether it's good or bad. Okay. Now sometimes we think of like, oh, like things aren't working. Oh, okay. I'm just going to chill, relax. Or another thing that a lot of people do is they will they will underestimate the small actions because they don't see immediate results. So what happens, and this is something I see very, very often, is someone will start something. They'll start a business. They'll go on their fitness journey. They'll go on their marriage journey, whatever it may be, right? They feel some momentum. They're like going really, really fast, right? But what happens is because they don't see immediate results, they start to feel like, oh, like I'm doing something wrong. I don't understand. Oh, like what's going on, right? And instead of learning and taking the time to really understand what's not working, they will just kind of quit and say, I'm not cut out for this. Or they'll experience some roadblocks and they'll be like, oh, this is too hard. And then they'll stop, right? Now, understand this analogy, right? The farmer doesn't plant one day and expect a tree the next, right? Growth is hidden first. And this is the tawakkul part, right? Your growth is not going to show right away. It's not going to show instantly. And that's something that we always need to understand, right? The action that we can take, which is the daily compounds, can lead to that growth, but ultimately the growth is something we can't see. We can see the daily actions you can see. You know what you're doing on a daily basis, right? You know if you're doing enough. You know if you're not doing enough, right? So this is something that's really, really important, right? Now, like I said, there's daily compounds, but there's good or bad. So, for example, eating poorly for 5 years doesn't ruin you overnight, but eventually the body will break down, right? So this is something where it's like, if you feel like, this is why the reason why people get out of shape isn't necessarily because, oh, like they say they let themselves go. But the reality is they just stop doing, because what happens when you're younger, of course, when you're younger, you're at your peak, right? You're maybe studying, you may be super busy. So you tell yourself, oh, when I get older, like when I have more time, this is what happens all the time. When I finish my studies, I'm going to work out or I'm going to exercise. When I'm doing this, I'm going to exercise. When I'm at search, I'm going to exercise. So people, they take exercise like it's not a priority. It's not important, right? But what happens is the longer you do this, you are ingraining within yourself to actually not do it, right? So it's going to be something that's not going to be normal to you, right? Whereas for myself, I'm going to use myself an example because I think I'm a good depiction of someone who decided to really commit to fitness, right? When I started first working out back in 2013, right? And then I just decided I was on and off, but I just kept doing it. I kept doing it, kept doing it. I really, really wanted to understand it. And then at some point, I realized I was getting older because so my body was changing, but my body was changing in a positive way. Now, I'm not the biggest person. I'll be honest with you. I am lean, right? I'm a pretty lean person, but I can get up in the morning. I can get up in the morning I can do push-ups, I can jump rope, I can go for runs. I have energy like pretty much throughout the day, right? Like I'm very light. Like I'm very light on my feet. So there's a lot of things I can do, and that's just because I built the foundations to actually get to that step. But a lot of people don't do that. They focus on, oh, I'm going to do it later. Or even like, for example, right? Business. A lot of people will say, oh, when I get the right capital, I'll start a business. Or when I get the right, I'll start a business. They'll push it off for later. But you can start now, right? You can start with what you have. But you don't have to always have capital. You can start by maybe creating some content, maybe some traction, right? Maybe talking to people, maybe finding a mentor. There's a lot of things you can do right now. But a lot of people, they say they're going to do it later. That's why a lot of people don't do it. Like I know a lot of people that will say, oh, I want to start a business. I want to do this. I'll just start a business. Well, your business isn't just going to start like that, right? You have to start. And I fell into this trap myself where it's like I felt like everything had to be perfect. But what happens is that when you start to take action, you start to fully understand, okay, now like things start to unfold, like doors start to open. It's an interesting thing. And this is what I mean by the plants. Like when you're planting the seeds, like the crops will start to show and you'll notice glimpses of it. And it's like, wow, okay, right? So again, like I said, same with working out, right? You may not see the results in 3 weeks, but in 3 years, it can completely transform you, right? And the same with salah, right? Sometimes when we feel like, oh, like I just started praying, I started getting closer to Allah and my life feels hard now. There's a lot of times that happens, right? It's like, why is my life so hard now, right? Or I don't feel any difference. I'm praying salah every day, right? I'm getting tested more, right? You may not feel it spiritually, the uplift right away. You might not feel it, but years of consistency will bring clarity, sakina, which is basically peace, and closeness to Allah, right? That's why if you find someone who prays 5 times a day, it's like a non-negotiable. It becomes like a lot of people, like when we're younger, we may not see the value of prayer. Maybe we might miss our prayers, we may not understand. But there's a point in your life where you understand, oh, the importance of it. But you're not going to understand it until you start praying, right? So you have to start with one prayer, and then next, and another prayer, until it becomes like a non-negotiable. And you reach a point where you get anxiety if you're not praying because you realize, oh, like I need to pray. It's a feeling like you don't, it's not like I have to pray now. No, it's like I need to pray, right? So you want to reach that point, and that's just through building the habits, right? Now, even like I said, my fitness journey, that was a very example that I mentioned. I'm not going to go too deep into that as mentioned, but when I first started, I was super skinny. I was insecure. I didn't know what I was doing, and for almost 3 years, I didn't even have proper form. And then later, I slowly started to figure out nutrition. I hired a personal trainer. I got some structure. Then I started tracking my workouts and my nutrition. And then that's when it started to see my body change. But that took years before that. And a lot of it was just knowledge. I just didn't understand it, right? And that's the accumulation of just trial and error. Keep trying, right? But here's the key. If I had quit, because I didn't see results in the first 3 months, I never would have built the strength, confidence, and discipline that I have now, right? In terms of working out, I can work out anytime, like not anytime, but I can work out pretty much anywhere. All I need is a jump rope. If I want some kettlebells, perfect. If I want to do push-ups, I can do push-ups. If I want to go for a run, I go for a run. Like I can push myself to go to the gym if there's a gym around me, right? I'm in a new area right now, so next week, inshallah, I'm going to be looking at potential gyms. But I'm at the stage where I can literally, it's like, it feels like autopilot, where it's like, yeah, like example, your salah, right? Like where it feels like, okay, like I need to pray, right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, I need to work out, I need to exercise, right? You pushed past that discomfort to the point where like, it's like, okay, well now it's like, I know, right? Even when it came to marriage, right? It's like, I also had to learn patience, and I'm still learning patience. And for a long time, I thought I'd never find someone. I faced rejection. I doubted myself. I felt like maybe marriage wasn't for me, but I kept working on myself spiritually, physically, mentally. And when the right time came, Allah brought the person who was meant for me. And it's not about rushing. It's about preparing yourself and then trusting Allah's timing. And again, planting the seeds and then waiting for the harvest. And I think the number one thing that's really important here is to understand that even when you get to this stage, you're going to find difficulties. You're going to find moments where um, you're going to find moments within yourself that you're going to have to work on. There's always going to be things you got to work on. For me, there's some certain aspects I need to work on. in marriage, whether it's fitness, whether it's business, all these things. So we're all work in progress, right? So that's something I want to share here. But business, same thing, right? I joined a coaching program that promised 6 figures in 6 months, right? And that's basically like they give you it's a true thing. They give you the blueprint. It was called the, I'm not gonna say the name of it, but it was called the something something blueprint. But here's what happened, right? I didn't get anywhere close to it. I didn't make 6 figures. Like I didn't make $1,000. I didn't make any money for almost a year or something like that. I didn't make any money. When I first started, I got super excited. I was like, oh, boom, boom, boom. I started hopping on some sales calls. I could not close anyone. I closed one person. I could not get the money from him. I could not get the pay. And it was just really a gap, right? It was a gap, right? I'm posting on social media. Nothing was really going out, right? For months, I was seeing no traction, like on social media. The traction I was seeing was like from fellow fitness coaches. And I'm like, well, you guys aren't my target audience and you guys aren't my client avatar, right? But I kept learning, I kept adjusting, and I kept reiterating. So that's a huge one. And now, alhamdulillah, I've started to see some results. I'm still getting there. And now, not an overnight success, but steady growth. It's getting there. That's business, that's life, and that's the seeds that you plant today, right? The boring, consistent reps, they don't pay off tomorrow. They pay off months or even years later. So this is super, super important. Now, with career, you don't go from entry level to leader in 1 year, right? You stack the skills, you build networks, and you earn trust. Even with your deen, you don't become a scholar half in 6 months. I mean, some people may become half within 6 months. Allah Mubarak if that's you. But it's daily Quran, salah, dhikr, and years of effort, right? And obviously trusting in Allah. So this is something, the point here is every area of your life is seed planting, right? Tawakul is not waiting for instant growth. It's trusting that unseen roots are forming underground. So here's what I want you to take away in this lesson here. Tawakul is action plus trust. Your responsibility is discipline, and Allah's responsibility is results. Now, obviously, Allah it's not, I don't say Allah's responsibility, but what I mean is that like you should have that conviction that Allah will help you either see the results or help you see something better, right? So this is something that's super, super important. And if you quit too early, you will never see the tree grow, right? But if you stay consistent, one day you'll look back and you realize the seeds that you planted years ago built the man that you are today, right? So I want you to ask yourself right now, like, what seeds am I planting daily, right? All the action that you're taking, every single step that you're doing is planting you for the next step, right? So if you're working out, right? You're working out, even if it's 10 minutes, don't underestimate the 10 minutes. 10 minutes is more than fine, right? Are they habits that are making you a stronger Muslim, husband, father, or leader, right? So maybe it's a communication thing, right? Or maybe it's you need more steps, right? Increasing your steps, whatever. It's like anything, right? So that's really big. If it's a business, right? Maybe it's just taking day by day action. Maybe reaching out to 50 people, even if it's 20 people, as long as you're reaching out to people and you're focused on that, then that's perfect, right? So you want to tie your camel, plant the right seeds, and trust Allah with the harvest, okay? So discipline is for you, and the results are from Allah. And if you would like one-on-one coaching with myself, just check out the link down below, and we can hop on a call. We can see what your situation is like, what you're currently going through. We can run through a game plan and see if it makes sense to work together. So just remember that part. Tie your camel, plant the right seeds, trust Allah with the harvest. And remember, discipline's from you and the results are from Allah. So keep that in mind and you will find your rhythm, inshallah. Sounds good? Assalamu alaikum.